Everyone, it's 9:30 here, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is Erin Kopek, and I'm the Marketing Director for Higher Level, a workforce management resource. Today you have joined our Workplace Excellence webinar entitled 7 Principles for Getting Employee Commitment to Their Organizational Goals. Chris Eggleston of Chris Eggleston and Associates will begin momentarily. A couple things before we begin. The call will last typically close to an hour, with a little bit less. We will save question and answer at the very end of the presentation if you have any questions for Chris. So let's go ahead and get started. Today our presenter is Chris Eggleston. Since 1982, Chris has helped thousands of corporations, associations, and other organizations make more than 5,000 events amazingly successful with his engaging, interactive, effective, and fun live presentations. Chris is from Carterville, Illinois, but travels throughout the country presenting his programs. In 1992, he earned his master's degree in business administration from Southern Illinois University at Carbondale to go with his bachelor's degree in marketing earned 2 years earlier. Chris's keynotes, seminars, and trainings include Grow Your Business Now, Leads to Sales, The Magic of Team Building, Customer Service That Grows Your Business, and Success Magic. He is also a noted entertainer with his Magic Comedy program. Today he is presenting a Success Magic micro training called 7 Principles for Getting Employee Commitment to Their Organizational Goals. Please welcome Chris Eggleston.
All right, well, hello. It's a real pleasure to be here. I'm really honored by Extra Help for having me be part of the webinar series. Excited about this opportunity. See if we can get the slide to advance here. There we go. All right. Anyhow, it's like I say, it's a real pleasure to be here today. And that introduction sounded probably kind of impressive, but I'm just an ordinary guy in business, you know, working along like all of you, trying to be more successful at everything that I do. And today we're going to talk about the 7 principles that to get your employees committed to your goals, to be part of your goals and be enthused about it. And these 7 principles come from my Success Magic training program, which in particular focused on personal goals. But the amazing thing that I discovered was that it ties in extremely well to your business goals. Now you're probably wondering a little bit about who I am. First off, I want to point out that you can connect with me on social media. At Chris Eggleston is the way to do that. I'm on all the major things: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me. Also, for anything you want to comment about today's presentation, you can use the hashtag SuccessMagic. That way you can look it up and see what people are saying. One other thing is that here's a website you're going to want to write down real quick before we get into the details, and that is my website, chriseggleston.com. But put a /higher level after that, because at that page, just for the webinar attendees today, I have some free gifts for you there. So be sure to check that out, bookmark that page, and I'll tell you near the end of the presentation how else we'll use that page. So everyone wondering, why should we listen to Chris Eggleston? Well, there are a variety of reasons. Like I say, a lot of experience, but here's where it all started, in 1966. That's when I was born. And I've been a speaker and trainer and entertainer at a variety of events, some banquets, conferences, conventions. I just returned from an association's annual meeting where I presented the Success Magic program for their after-dinner program to make it entertaining and fun. You'll notice I highlighted there magician, and that's really how my career as a speaker and trainer started. Was I became interested in magic when I was about 6 years old, started learning magic, and eventually started doing magic shows. And I started studying as a 15-year-old. I started studying a little bit about marketing. How do I get the shows booked? How do I book the shows? And that started me on this whole journey. Because as a magician, you're known more for being a starving artist than for being successful. There's no other area, no other career that you could have where people say starving. They don't say starving doctor. They don't say starving lawyer. They don't say starving auto mechanic, but they will say starving artist, anyone who's connected to the performing arts or the physical arts like painting and sculpting, things like that. They'll always attach starving artists. And I figured out how to be able to make a living in a field known more for starving artists than for the successes. And some of those principles are what I actually share today. Over the years, the last 34 years, I've done more than 5,000 presentations of all sorts, customized for companies, a variety of different presentations. Some you heard Aaron talk about during the introduction. Now, here's one of the key principles. When I first mentioned that I started learning magic, I wanted to learn how to be more successful at booking shows. So I started studying the sales and marketing, went on to get my marketing degree and MBA. That was a really no big deal. I started studying, separate from that, I started studying all types of marketing. I'm an avid lifelong learner. I would suggest, if you aren't really committed to this already, that you write down the term lifelong learner. It is a key to success in business, success in life. You have to be a lifelong learner. Keep learning more. I congratulate you for being on this webinar today, and I hope you're part of their entire webinar series here at Higher Level, because that means you are a lifelong learner. You're always trying to learn new skill sets that can improve your life and your business, your performance, and that will always help you. And one of the first areas I said I started learning was the sales and marketing side. And I would start booking shows, and I started paying my way through college by booking shows for a variety of different events. And then after I graduated, I took that career full time, and I'd started doing some speaking and training on this along the way with my presentations, and it came out of my own personal experiences. And one of the things I was discovering, though, is I was not being as successful as I wanted to be. I'm like, something is different. These people over here are being more successful in this field than I am. So what's going on? What's happening? And that's when I started really studying success. And I encourage you to go out and get books on success, attend trainings on success, because success principles are core and universal, and there's certain ones that carry over to any career that you want to be in. You have to study how to be successful. The skill sets like sales and marketing or being a great human resources person, those are critical, but you have to learn how to be successful. And if anybody's interested in some of the books that I highly recommend, drop me an email, and I'll be glad to send you a list of my favorite books that I love to read, that I reread. That's how important they are to me. So another thing I want to point out is that everything that I share and teach follows these three words: practical, proven, and profitable. I teach in all my presentations stuff that's simple to understand, easy to do. Now, it may take a lot of hard work, but it's simple to understand. They're very practical principles. The next thing is they're proven. Nearly everything that I share in any one of my presentations, including today, are things that I have learned and that I have used and I know work. They've worked for me. So that's what I share. It's not something I grabbed from a book and decided just to share it with you. This is stuff that I've actually used, these things that I'm sharing today, the concepts and strategies and tactics. The other thing I want to point out is that everything I share is profitable. Now, I want to broaden the definition of profitable. In business, of course, you think, hey, profitable means make more money. And that's true. These principles can help you to make more money, can help your business be more successful and make more money. But it can also provide profits in this way. You can have more time in your life, be more productive in areas of your life, have more peace of mind, develop better relationships. All of these things come about by following success principles. So let's get into what we're going to talk about today, and that's the 7 secrets to identify at the start. And to get your employees committed to your organizational goals, it all starts at the very beginning, and that is setting goals the right way. You have to know how to properly set your goals, whether they're personal goals or your business goals. They have to be set the correct way. And over the years, I've tried a variety of goal-setting systems, and I've defined it down to what I call SMARTer goals. Now, some of you may be familiar with SMART goals. And SMARTer is just an acronym. It's a little bit extended off SMART goals, but it has a couple additional real key points. Now, I will go through these today in talking about how to develop your teams and get them to be more productive and effective in your businesses, get your employees on board. But you can apply the same SMARTer goals concept to your own personal goals. So you'll find double value in this webinar today. There it is right there. That's the SMARTer goals concept. Need I explain more? You probably want me to. So it's all going to go around. Each one of those pictures represents one of the letters in SMARTer, starting with the puzzle piece at the top. That stands for the S, and we'll dig right in right now. The S stands for specific. All goals must be very specific, very precise. You must tell your employees exactly what is expected of them. So if your employees have a goal or a business goal, your employees must know precisely what performance you expect, precisely what they're shooting for. Our brains work in weird ways, and one of the things is vagaries don't work. Vagaries don't allow us to focus and really get things accomplished. We have to be very, very specific with our goals. So I'm going to give you a couple quick examples here. The first one is maybe your overall goal or objective is to improve your customer service in your company. And I brought that up because I'm doing a customer service presentation later this week. Well, that's not a specific goal yet. That's kind of a general idea. It's the start of a goal-setting process. So you want to improve customer service. If you have a goal like that where you're trying to define it, you have to break it down into a way it can be very, very specific, a way it can be identified. And here's an example. Answer customer calls within 3 rings. Okay? Notice that's a very specific goal. All right? Very specific. You know exactly what performance is expected, exactly what is expected in the company. Here's one you mostly think of, increasing sales. Okay? Close at least $10,000 in sales by Friday. Okay? Very specific number. Okay? $10,000 in sales. I also want to point out the words at least. This is a great frame to use when identifying goals quite often, especially one that you don't want to limit. Okay, notice it says at least $10,000 in sales. So $10,000 is the minimum goal. It's the floor. But if you're in sales and business, of course, hey, we don't care if we sell more than $10,000 or more than 10,000 units. So you can always identify the at least frame when you set your goal. So a goal has to be very, very specific. All right. So specific, precise, exact. All right, and use the at least frame in the areas where it applies. Now that leads right into the M, and the M stands for measurable. Measurable. Our goals must be measurable. They must be countable. Okay, and the reason for this, there's really a couple reasons for this. One is you have to be able to track your progress. Okay? You must be able to track the progress towards the goal. Okay, so for instance, when we're talking about the customer calls, all right, we're talking about answer the call within 3 rings. All right, notice the 3 rings right there. That is the goal. That's the measurable part. Okay? If your employees are answering the call within 3 rings, you know they're achieving the goal. If the phone's ringing 5 and 6 times, no one's answering, they're not achieving the goal. It's a very measurable unit. Same thing in sales. We use dollars. Okay? In your personal lives, if you want to be healthier, you might want to define it by, hey, I want my cholesterol to be lower. I might want to lose weight. And exactly how many pounds. So it has to be in some measurable form. Okay? The other reason for this is you want to be able to identify when people are actually achieving the goal. All right? You want to know what performance is expected, and then you want to know when you've actually achieved that particular goal. So 3 rings. Hey, we're answering the phone on 3 rings. Hey, we're achieving that goal. You know, we reached that sales level of $10,000. We're achieving that goal. So we have to be able to track our progress. We have to be able to see when we've achieved a goal. Now, the reason you have to be able to track the progress is because you want to know if you need to make adjustments in what you're trying to do to achieve that goal. For instance, if you're trying to answer the call within 3 rings, if everybody keeps answering the call in 5 and 6 rings, now you have to go back and identify, well, why are we still not achieving the goal of answering the call within 3 rings? Maybe you start to talk to those employees and find out what's going on, and they'll say, well, our phone system's not very good. We're having trouble. We're understaffed. We have issues with the phone lines, technology. We had somebody leave the company, so we're shorthanded. Whatever the issue is. So you can start to identify. Or if those aren't issues, you can start to look for why isn't it happening, so we can make adjustments in policies and procedures to make sure we achieve that. Same thing in sales. All right? If you're not making enough sales, you're not closing enough sales, you have to identify where the problem is so you can make adjustments because you're not reaching the particular goal. Also in the instance like a sales goal or a longer term goal, hey, we want $10,000 in sales by Friday. You can see, well, that would be an average of, say, in a 5-day week, $2,000 in sales a day. So you can kind of measure, hey, did I make $2,000 in sale on Monday, $2,000 on Tuesday? Okay, if you haven't made any by Thursday, achieving that $10,000 in sales is going to be tough. So you can measure progress along the way. While we're on that, you can also take and break a big goal down into smaller goals. Okay, sales is always a great example of this. If you have a a $1.2 million sales goal for the year, that equates to $100,000 a month, which equates to $25,000 a week. All right, so you can break a big goal down to a smaller goal, which helps, again, to track progress. All right, so pay attention very carefully to making sure it's very measurable. All right, measurable, countable, and trackable. Now, we're going to jump ahead here to the T. The T stands for time sensitive. Time sensitive. Every goal must have a deadline. Okay, we must know when this particular performance is expected. You have to have that deadline. Okay, again, back to our two examples. Improve customer service. All right, answer calls within 3 rings. Now, that is what the objective is, answer the call within 3 rings. But the other important part is there's kind of an implied element to that, and that means in this case we have an implied element of when do we have to answer the call with rings? Every time the phone rings. All right. Next one, of course, we can go back to, didn't see that didn't come up right there. All right. And the other one is, by your sales, you know exactly what the date was. The date was done on Friday. Date was done on Friday. You knew exactly when that date was, all right? So you have to have a deadline for every particular goal. It's terrible if you have an employee or an employee team and they're expected to accomplish a certain task, and then you say, hey, why didn't you get that done? Well, you just told me to do it. Well, I needed it done by today, and if they didn't know that expectation at the start, they're set up for failure, okay? So you have to be very precise. So these are really the 3 core essentials. You probably use these quite often in goal setting. Goal specific, they have to be in some measurable term, and you have to have a deadline. Now we're going to go to some areas that aren't quite covered as often, all right? And that is, we're going to get into the A. The A stands for achievable. Every goal must be achievable. You have to know that the goal is actually truly possible. All right, so you have to look when you set a goal for your company, for your team, for your employees. It has to truly be an achievable goal. All right, so for instance, in sales, say, hey, we need $1 million in sales by tomorrow. In your company, is it even possible for a company or a company in your industry to make $1 million in sales overnight? It depends on your company, of course, but for most companies, maybe, probably not, especially if you're a small business. $1 million in a year, not a problem, or $1 million in a month, but $1 million overnight, not even achievable in the first place. So we have to make sure it truly is achievable. All right, now that's the first question. Can it actually be done? Can you actually do it? Can you actually achieve this particular goal? Now, that leads to the second point about this, and that is, do they believe it can be done? That means, do your employees, the people on the team trying to achieve that goal, do they believe it can be done? These are 2 sort of different questions. One is, yes, it's actually possible. That's the one you have to ask if you're leading the team and leading the setting of the goals. But the second one is, do the people that are assigned to achieve that goal, do they really believe they can achieve it? Because if they don't believe they can do it, they won't be able to achieve it. So you have to believe it in order to achieve it. This is with any goal in your life, any goal your employees have. If they don't believe it's possible, they won't be able to do it. If they don't believe they can improve customer service and answer the phone more quickly, if they don't believe they can do it, it'll never happen because they'll give up before they even start. Okay? So it has to truly be achievable. One thing that I've had people have happen is that I have employees after some of my presentations, the boss, I use the euphemism boss, not in a bad way, but the boss comes in and says, is assigned a goal. And sometimes after I do a Success Magic presentation, some of the employees come over, our boss always sets goals that aren't even possible. And he says, because if we're shooting for the impossible, we'll have a really good result. And that's really the wrong way to do this. Because if you set a goal so high that it's truly impossible, your employees are being demotivated immediately. Okay? Their performance, even though you expected, hey, if they push, they'll do better than anything we'd actually set as a goal. Well, what happens is they're already discouraged before they've even begun. So we must make sure that the goal is truly achievable and that they believe they can achieve it. Fantastic quote, of course, from Henry Ford. Whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you're right. It's a classic quote, been around a long time because it is so, so true. All right? So anything you believe you can do, you can do. If you believe you can't, you can't. You won't be able to do it. Pay attention. Make sure your employees believe they can accomplish what you're asking them to do. All right, so all of the goals must be achievable, possible, believable. Now this leads into the R. R goes along with the A. The R stands for realistic. Our goals must be realistic. Now you're probably wondering, well, how is that different from achievable? Well, realistic and achievable are kind of a yin and yang for goal setting. And there's some key points about being realistic. Is the goal, okay, even though it's achievable, it's possible, is it realistic based on current circumstances? Okay, for instance, if you have in your factories, you have a factory or production room, and you have a goal for performance and productivity, and they go, well, we can't achieve that. Why can't you achieve it? Well, our new great machine just broke down. It's going to be down for a couple days, so we can't achieve that goal now. That's a realistic circumstance that has happened that has affected the ability to achieve that goal. So realism gets in the way sometimes. Maybe a major supplier, is having some production problems. They aren't getting you the product to produce what you need. Maybe if it's a sales goal, maybe one of your major clients just shut their doors, went out of business. So now not only do you have to try to reach that sales goal you have, you're going to have to do it by making up all the lost sales that you had from the other clients. So you have to pay attention to realistic circumstances, current circumstances that are happening, that are affecting the goal. So when you set the goal, take those things into consideration. Ideally in business, every year you want your sales to grow, but sometimes, like I said, the economy takes a downturn. You can't always do it. Okay, performance in your facilities can vary depending upon what's going on. So you have to take those things in consideration. If you're having computer issues or computer problems, that can affect performance in the office by your employees. Okay, so they may not achieve their performance goals. So pay attention to those things. Again, if you don't take those into consideration, it's going to discourage your employees from pursuing and achieving those goals. Next thing is it realistic based on your other business goals? Now, I'm sure many of you that are on this call today, you're there and you have a lot of work on your desk. You have a lot of work on your desk. Maybe you have, say, 3 major projects that you're trying to complete by the end of the week. Imagine your boss comes in and says, here's a project. I need this done by Friday. And you go, wait a minute. I have these other 3 projects. I have my days slotted out. I know how I'm going to finish these 3 projects by Friday, but I have 0 time to finish this project. Okay, so here's where a new goal is interfering with performance of the other goals that you have, or they're interfering with the performance of this new goal that you're being assigned to. So they have to make sure they balance out. So that's where you have a problem. The other business goals are interfering with your new goal, or vice versa. So all the goals have to, in a sense, work together. We'll talk about that more in just a second. So all of your different goals in the business are going to affect any particular goal and the achievement of it. So you have to take that into consideration. What things are your employees expected to do, or your employee teams? What performances? You're setting these goals for them. Okay. So what's happening, you have to make sure that all the goals are working together. And here's a real key one. Is the goal realistic based on personal goals? And that means your employees' personal goals. All right, believe it or not, personal lives are going to affect performance on the job. You may have experienced this yourselves and probably have. Okay, simple example. You come to one of your employees and you give them a goal, hey, we have this new project, we need to have this particular element done by the end of the day today. Okay, and they're busy and they were already planning a personal goal, whether it's formal goal setting or not. They were already planning to get off work right on time at 5 o'clock and run to the bar and meet their friends that were coming in from out of town. Well, if what they've just been given as a new task, a new goal, a new objective, is going to force them to work late, now they have a personal goal in conflict with a business goal. And a couple different things can happen with that. One, they could ignore the business goal, okay, which they're probably not going to do, but they could. Or they could rush through it and do a halfway okay job of it in order to get done by 5 o'clock. Or they're going to stay late, work on that project, meet their friends later, and be unhappy about it. And again, this is discouraging. that's hurt your employees. So you have to understand that we have to take into consideration our employees' personal goals a little bit. Doesn't mean that personal goals are an excuse to avoid getting things done at work, but it's good to have some consideration, understand that people do have their own goals in life, their own, whether that's formal or not. They have things they want to do, have, and be in life. All right, and it has to jive a little bit with what your business goals are. Right? These two things going together, realistic and achievable, that's called congruence. Our goals must work together. They must be congruent. Okay? If they're butting up against each other, the problem that happens is you don't achieve any of the goals. Any of the goals. So it's important to make sure all of your goals are working together. Okay? All the employee goals need to work together. I mentioned earlier about having another project thrown on your desk suddenly. Okay? It didn't work. It wasn't congruent with your other goals that you currently had. So what do we do about this? Well, we'll try to balance your goals out. Okay? Your employees have to have their goals balanced out a little bit. They have to fit together. And a couple of key things you do is you can adjust the amount and you can adjust the time frame. All right? I call this one example I use all the time, the salesperson's dilemma. Okay? A salesperson. There's rarely a salesperson who doesn't want to sell more. So salesperson sets these really ambitious sales goals. But this salesperson also has a family at home. And they have some goals to really spend a lot of time with their family. They want to be home at, get home at 5 o'clock so they can have dinner with the kids. They can go to coach the Little League team and go to the school activities and whatever else is going on. They want to spend their weekends with their family. So they have all these great goals to spend with their family, and then they have this very aggressive sales goal. Well, to achieve the sales goal, they're over here and they're going, oh, I have to go into work early, and I have to work late every day, and I'm going to have to work on the weekends to prepare presentations for the next week. And so they see all this time. And meanwhile, they have all this aggressive goal to spend all kinds of time with their family. And what's happening, those two goals are butting up against each other. And what will happen is it will discourage them. So they'll end up being, hey, I want to spend all this time on sales. And while they're out there trying to sell, they'll be thinking, I'm missing the kids' ball game tonight. I'm not at the school activity tonight. I'm not having dinner with my kids at night. Likewise, when they're with the family, they might be thinking in the back of their mind, let's see, I need to work on this presentation. When I go talk to Bob at XYZ company on Monday, I got this, and they're not even really enjoying the time with the family. So these things truly have to balance together. All right? So that's where you start to adjust the amount and the time frame. So for instance, in the salesperson's example, they might have to say, okay, I'm going to go into work 3 days early. Okay? I'm allow myself to work 2 days late each week. And then the other nights, I'll spend those nights, make sure those are dedicated to my family. Every Saturday is going to be dedicated to my family, and Sunday night I'll be doing my prep work for my sales the next day. So you can start to balance out the time and commitment. Same thing with your employees in any area. Okay? If you want to improve customer service and you have these other tasks you want to do, all those goals have to have some kind of balance to them. They have to work together. All right, hey, you need to accomplish these 10 tasks in a week. Well, they have to work together in a way that they truly are realistically achievable, all working together. So pay attention to that. You'll see this with if you have kids, you'll see this with your kids. They come home with a ton of homework from each one of their teachers in each class they're taking. And it's not jiving together. The kids would be up, till midnight every night trying to do all those homework assignments because they aren't truly balancing together. Okay, you hear that complaint a lot. Same thing happens with your employees. And their employee teams. They have to have those goals balanced out in a realistic way. So pay close attention to achievable and realistic. By the way, in your own personal life, pay attention to those things also. All right, if you set your own personal goals. Now, here's one of the real cruxes of this whole thing, and that is the E. And the E stands for emotional. Our goals must be emotional to us. They must be important to us. All right? They must be meaningful. You may say, well, this is a business goal. How can it be meaningful to my employees? Well, your employees have to be committed to the goal. They have to have some connection to the importance of that goal in the business and in their lives. There has to be a connection. All right? Because here's why emotion is so important. If you don't have an emotional connection to any particular goal, you're not going to have enthusiasm. That's right. See, an emotional connection to the goal leads to enthusiasm. All right? Think in anything you like to do in life. There's certain tasks in your job right now that you do not want to do, but you know you have to do it. It's kind of a requirement of your job. you don't have much of an emotional attachment. You may put it off to the end of the day. You may kind of drag through it. You may try to avoid it as long as possible, right? But when you do have an emotional attachment to something you really enjoy doing, an aspect of your job that's really important to you, that you really care about, then you can have a ton of enthusiasm for it. It'll be the first thing you want to do every day. It'll be a thing you want to end the day with. It'll be a thing you want to do the most. Well, you try to avoid those other areas. So an emotional attachment. So your employees have to be attached to any particular goal you give them. They have to truly care about the customer service. They have to truly care about growing the business with making their products better, improving the productivity in the factory. If they really care about those things, it has to be really important to them. And that's what gives you the energy, right? Again, if you have something you really love to do, you have a ton of energy for it. Some you don't care about so much, no energy for it. All right, you can see this turn. You're drudging through something you really don't like to do, and suddenly you get a call. Hey, can you go do go to the special meeting XYZ? We've got something special going on. Oh yeah, I love doing that stuff. Boom, you're out of your office. You go right to it. Suddenly, your energy level rises. This is true with every one of your employees also. Okay, they have to have that attachment. So I always question, how do we get that attachment? Well, here's a real key way. All right, I would suggest you write this one down. Involve your employees and your employee teams in the goal-setting process in the first place. That's right. We're going to go right back to the very beginning right here. Whenever you're going to set goals and have employees set goals or teams in your company set goals, involve those people in the process at the very, very beginning. Right? At the very start of this, I talked about customer service. Well, imagine you get all your customer service people together. Rather than just go in and decree, hey, you have to answer all phone calls within 3 rings. They're going to say, okay, that's the new policy. Some of them will do it. Some of them won't. Some won't care about it as much. But go into that same meeting with those customer service people. Say, hey, we're having a problem with customer service in our company. We're getting some complaints from people. We want to improve our customer service. We're going to have this meeting to discuss things we can do to improve customer service. And so your employees start to throw out all these different ideas. Hey, we can do this, we can do that, we can do this, we can answer the phone within 5 rings, we can answer the phone within 3 rings, we can answer the phone within 8 rings, whatever the ideas that are coming out, just as an example. Oh, we can smile more, we can be more friendly on the phone, we can have better scripts, we can do whatever. So now you get all these different ideas. And then you have the employees get involved with, hey, let's define some specific goals. What do you think we can all accomplish? Well, maybe out of that call, hey, we can answer the phone within, out of that meeting, we can answer the phone within 5 rings. Well, maybe you as the manager say, we need to do it a little faster than that. Well, can we do it in like 2 rings? You start to massage as they go, no, 2 rings is impossible. Back to that achievable and realistic. Because sometimes you're across the room, you can't get there in time, 2 is tough. And maybe you settle on answering the call within 3 rings. Same thing if you have an employee's performance, maybe in productivity on the factory floor. Productivity on the factory floor. Maybe this particular employee is not performing well. Their productivity is not as high as it needs to be. They're slowing things down. Well, rather than just go in and say, hey, you need to do this faster, go in and say, okay, we really need to improve the productivity here. We need you to accomplish these tasks a little bit faster. Is there anything you think you can do that will improve your performance? And you start to discuss it with them, start to identify particular goals that they can have to improve their performance. Say they're producing, I'll just make up a number, say they're producing 10 units of whatever an hour. Okay? And you really need them to produce 20 units an hour. They're just slower at it than everybody else. Well, maybe you work with them and identify, what can we do that will help you be faster at that goal, be able to get closer to the 20 units? And they go, well, I'm not really sure. I have trouble doing this certain task. Oh, okay. Well, that identifies that maybe we need to get you some training on how to be better at that particular task. So you get them some training. Say, okay, your new goal now is 12 units per hour. So now you have 12 units, an achievable and realistic goal. And now they work on it and they get to that level. Then you go back and they set a new goal. Okay, let's see if we can get you up to 15 units an hour, and so on and so forth. But involving the people is really critical, because if they've been part of the process, they have much more commitment to it. Okay, look at the sports teams. I try to avoid sports analogies sometimes, but sports teams are great at this. If you have every single person on that team dedicated to a particular goal, hey, we want to win the conference championship, Everyone knows exactly what it is. They're all committed to that particular goal. They're all going to work very hard to fulfill their role to win that conference championship because they were part of the goal-setting process. All right? So make sure they're involved. The other way to do this is a harder way, and you have to convince people of the importance of the goal to them. Okay, why is it critically important for you to achieve this goal? Why do you have to improve your performance in the shipping department by making sure everything is precisely correct when you ship out new products? Okay, so you have to ship out new products. You know, we're getting a lot of returns and complaints that parts are missing, things are happening. So what can we do? Okay, you just go in and say, hey, you need to pay more attention, and they know they're supposed to, but they're not involved in the process. You have to convince them why this is important. So this is important because we're getting a lot of returns. We're losing customers. If we continue to lose customers, we're going to have to cut back on our workforce. We don't want to do that. We want to keep the company growing. So you have to start to show them. It's not the ideal way to do it, but sometimes it's the only way to do it. So make sure people truly understand why they have to improve their performance and how important it is, not just to the company or the boss, you know, the owner making a lot more money, why it's important to them also, how it's going to benefit them. Always add that in. People work for things that benefit them. Classic line in marketing and sales and true in life is people care about themselves more than anything else. So we have to make sure they care about themselves and care about the particular goals. So make sure you get your people involved in this process. Now we're going to go to the R. And the R stands for recognize and reward. Recognize and reward. It's critically important that when your employees achieve a goal that you recognize they've achieved it. You can also, in the goal setting process, attach rewards. For instance, if you have a team assigned to a particular project, if they successfully accomplish the project, maybe they get a reward. It could be a bonus. It could be dinner out. It could be a special gift. It could be anything. All right, but you can attach a reward. But we're going to go back to recognition here. Recognition is incredibly, incredibly important because if you are working very hard for your company and you're achieving the goals and you're never recognized for it, it's a demotivating factor. A little bit of recognition gets people more enthused about achieving new goals, right? About achieving new goals. So that's the key. You want your people to know that they've been recognized for their performance. If the big boss comes in and says, hey, Mary, I wanted to tell you that, you know, that report you did was fantastic. It really helped us out a lot. I'm looking forward to an opportunity for you to work on another project for us. Okay, now how would you feel if you're Mary? Well, you're probably going to feel pretty good about it. Your work was personally recognized. It was recognized by the boss, someone you may not see every day, but they came in and they recognized you, or they gave you a phone call and recognized your performance. Now, the next time you get the boss comes and says, hey, here's a new goal objective for you, we need you to do this. You're going to have a lot more enthusiasm for it. So recognize those accomplishments. Okay, celebrate those accomplishments. Make sure people know that, hey, you've achieved these goals. These are important. Okay, we want to congratulate you, reward you, recognize you, whatever process you want to use. But make sure recognition is number one. Okay, rewards incentivize people can be a great tool, but you have to make sure you reward the correct thing. Again, when I talk to sales groups, sometimes there's a sales contest. Hey, if you sell a whole bunch of stuff, you know, reach this particular sales goal, we send you on the trip to Hawaii. Well, that's great, and it can be very, you know, can incentivize people. However, once in a while you get a salesperson who cares more about the trip than you do about the customers. And if that incentive is causing them to go, oh, I just have to keep selling, and they're not selling to the right clients, they're being pushy, they're using extra manipulative selling techniques and getting the wrong people to buy the product, they're going to have a whole bunch of unhappy customers. So that's where the incentive can backfire. So make sure the incentive works with your overall goal. So, in a nutshell, that's what we covered today, the SMARTER goals concept: specific, memorable, achievable, realistic, time-sensitive, emotional, and recognize and reward. Now that leads into, we do have, I think we might have a minute or two for some questions. Erin, do we have any questions today?
It doesn't look like there are any questions.
All righty. Well, here's what I want you to do. If any of you have any questions as we finish this, you can feel free to email them to me, and I'll be glad to answer the questions. It's chris@chriseggleston.com. If you ever need to talk to me, give me a call, 1-800-341-6954. Another thing I want to point out, if you do have some questions, I'll be glad to record a special video answering some of these questions. If I get some common questions from people, and I will post them to that web page I gave you earlier, chriseggleston.com/higher-level. I hope you learned a little bit today. I hope you got some value out of today's webinar, and I want to thank you, and I hope to see all of you soon.
All right, thank you very much, Chris. Our appreciation to the presenter, and also that concludes our webinar for today. Everybody have a great day, and I appreciate you listening in. Thank you.